there's a lot of content in Revelation 13, and I'm hoping I can get through this in a short amount of time so you're not stressing out. But chapter 13 is where the beast is revealed for us by John, and he comes out of the sea. We are given descriptions and the likeness of his power in verses 1 through 2. Notice in verse 2 on the slide, I've kind of highlighted it for you, the leper, the bear, and the lion. These are mighty beasts, as what we can describe here on earth. They have power, they have, they're agile, they're fast, and they're swift. And so this is what John sees. And then another way, this is an interpretational hermeneutic in which things are described as, or metaphor, a simile. They're given description in animal-like terms. We can often do that with the Lord, describing God in human-like terms in the biblical passage. But again, you can read the power, the likeness that he has, and then you move toward the 10 horns, and you need to go back to Daniel chapter 7, and this is where John picks up this figurative language. 10 horns on it, and on the other horns came up before the 3 of them fell. And in verse 24 again, the 10 horns are the 10 kings. And then you have the 7 heads, and that appears again in chapter 17:9. You can move forward and see how that is described. The 7 heads are the 7 mountains. So John is giving us some help in interpreting the data, interpreting the symbols, interpreting the words. And when you do hermeneutics, this is important for you as you study books within the canon, that you do correlation. So you move just beyond the chapter, you move ahead, and you look at your boundary chapters to help you with interpretation. Then who is this beast? Just know that there are many different interpretations. I give you a few samples here. The first one is the immediate context that John is giving us an image of Nero during his time. There's the futurist camp, those who, like Martin Luther, who saw the Pope as, or the church system as, the Antichrist. Even our common day era of the 20th century, I even know some in the 21st century, the current one we live in now, who see different church systems might be the Antichrist. And then you have the idealist camp, seen as just a basic false religious system, a worldview that is contrary to a biblical one. And then you have a historist camp who sees things that this is yet to come. It's not yet happened. There might be signs, there might be pictures to prepare us that this is what the Antichrist will look like, this is what this ruler will be. And so this is the beast that is described to us. Who is this beast? Again, the different camps for you to evaluate. Now the beast comes out of the sea, and it's a description. It's a description of his power, his the illusions that he uses, the blasphemous words that come out of his mouth, and he's going to make war. He's going to bring utter change upon the earth, and great calamity, great war, great strife, friction and conflict between people and nations and families. And so this is what John says in verse 3. Who is like the beast, and who can make war against him? Showing the power and deceptive philosophy that he brings. The whole world was astonished, and they followed the beast. Men worshiped the beast. And we can look at some illusions even today as we look at our world. And again, you look at the authority and the arrogance that he has. It harkens back to what Satan described, Lucifer, the son of the dawn that rises up against God and says, I will take my place on the Most High. I will be like the Most High God. And so these are words that flow out of his mouth and are contrary to holiness, contrary to godliness, and really contrary. Pride is a great sin that God hates. And might that be an example for us as we think about some application as you read through the book of Revelation? What are some principles that you ought not to be described as one that is filled with blasphemy and pride and arrogance? This is not what we want in our lives. And so you move through the PowerPoint slide. His authority and arrogance are continued to be described here. He was given authority, so God is granting this. This is based on God's providential and sovereign plan. He makes war against the saints. And all the inhabitants of the world will worship the beast whose name, who have not been written in the Lamb's book of life. Now, let me just stop here because I think we have to distinguish between the two eschatological timetables. You remember earlier video I mentioned that you have a pre-trib position and then you have a post-trib position. Those can still flow out of the tradition of premillennialism. And I have many good friends who hold to a post-trib hermeneutic, and they believe the church, like the nation of Israel, as the nation of Israel went through the plagues, so will the church. The church will go through the time of great tribulation. They'll be tested and tried. They will be persecuted, and this will identify whether we belong to God and whether we will accept the mark. And if you accept the mark, you're basically not a child of God. That's how the post-trib individuals will describe it. So it's a description of great calamity, great time of testing for the church and the whole earth, and that's how they would see it. Now, for those in the pre-trib camp, their perspective comes out of 2 Thessalonians, that the church is raptured, the church is brought out of the time before the time of testing, and they're banking on some of these important scriptural passages. So just a little rabbit trail for you to understand that there is that difference here in chapter 13 that you need to know. Again, John goes back to chapter 9. He gives us some strong exhortation. And he who has an ear, let him hear. Very, very symbolic of what Jesus did with the Pharisees and his those who were following him. He who has a ear, I need you to pay attention. I need you to listen to what I have to say. So if anyone is to go into captivity he will go. If anyone is to be killed with the sword he will be killed. And then you move to the beast out of the land, chapter 13 again. We're focusing on just chapter 13, 11 through 18. Description of the second beast. So the first beast comes out of the sea, the other one comes out of the land, and his likeness of power is summarized. Look at verse 11. I circled it for you. He has two horns like a lamb, and he spoke like a dragon. So very symbolic, What is this dragon described as? One with fire coming out of his mouth. But this one looks and does great miraculous signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven and earth to the full view of men, meaning he's going to look like Jesus Christ. And everything that Jesus did, he's going to mock and he's going to follow. And so people are going anyways be drawn to this leader who comes on the scene. And this, again, draws me what I said about 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 in regards to if you're post-trib or pre-trib. And this is how we are seeing things. So will the church experience these descriptors, this great leader that comes out and betrays many? Again, if you're a pre-trib, you're not holding to that. You're seeing the church being taken out, being raptured, or we call the blessed hope of the return of our great God and Savior Jesus Christ. Again, you can read 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 1 concerning those who have fallen asleep. Let me just kind of keep moving here. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 9, the coming of the lawless one. So Paul is describing who this Antichrist is. John is describing the Antichrist. You can go back to the book of Daniel and see how Daniel describing this Antichrist, this ruler that comes onto the scene. And then we move to this beast out of the land who uses the mark. Again, if you're familiar with Revelation and some of the symbolic meaning, this is where we get the images of the 666 number. And so this exhortation that everyone who does not have the letter 666 will be given the mark and won't be able to buy food, won't be able to buy bread. And this will be symbolic that they belong to the Antichrist. And so events at the Middle East of the middle of the tribulation, the kingdom of the beast is attacked. The beast is killed. Satan is cast out of heaven, chapter 12. The beast is resurrected, symbolic again of what Jesus does in the Gospels. He's resurrected. The 3 of the 10 kings are subdued. Again, you got to read chapter 7 of Daniel. The 2 witnesses are killed, and the 7-year covenant is broken. That time of peace and prosperity, and this moves us even closer to the time of desolation. And the abomination of desolation is set up. The mark of the beast is given, and the image of the beast is erected. And again, intensive persecution of the Jews begin. You pick up this Matthew chapter 24. Well, this concludes our section on Revelation chapter 13. I hope it has helped clarify some of the meaning and of the chapter.